Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros MLB. It's time to look ahead to the waiver wire for this week, and let's start with an infielder for the White Sox. That's right, because Chase Meidroth has been pretty darn good. Now, he's not a guy that's going to hit for a ton of power. He's one of the pieces that came over in the Garrett Crochet deal, but he is an OBP god. Let's be honest. The guy has been terrific. Over his last 15 games, the OBP over 400, the roster percentage still around 40%, and that's on CBS, and that's where most paid leagues are. Is he going to hit for a ton of power? No, but he has 8 stolen bases on the year. He's hitting .292, so he's giving you some average. He's giving you on-base percentage, and dare I say also in points leagues, a guy that's going to kind of fill up the stat sheet. I like adding Meidroth to a roster. I'm actually mad because I had to drop him a couple weeks ago because I had a roster crunch with injuries. And of course, I tried to get him back this week because I had more injuries and I couldn't. I got outbid. So I'm trying to do a public service announcement. This guy looks good and he just makes contact, Welsh. And in this day and age, contact walks, again, that's something very useful.
He's in the same vein of like the if there was like a Luis Ariz tree and it had, little branches of different versions of him. And that equates to a guy that, he's got that slow, short swing, doesn't barrel the ball, lets the ball travel, makes tons of contact, and then has like weird counting stats. But he comes off of that tree because he does get those counting stats. He's been aggressive on the base paths, kind of like what we would want for Jacob Wilson to take a next step. But Meidroth has probably even less power projection maybe than those two guys where he does in the stolen base market. So I think you said it best. In a points league, it's a phenomenal pickup, 12% K percentage with the exact same walk percentage, an expected batting average that's 280. So that's going to stick. He does actually hit the ball kind of hard, but just doesn't get in the air in the bunch. The biggest question is just going to be like around him. Like, can he score runs? Will the players around him get him in? Is he ever going to move into maybe prime spots as they dismantle this roster and potentially look to bring up some young guys as he is as well? Could he hit in any other prime spot? Just seems like a classic leadoff guy. The stolen bases make him extra fun. You can dream on some runs, and then you could start to dream on him being like a 3 category player, which is what you want out of like a Jacob Wilson or a Rise. But sometimes they're just 2 category guys, and it's batting average and runs. Meidroth might be a little bit more than that. So he's definitely worth a pickup in points leagues. Deeper leagues, check out if you're chasing stolen bases and average.
Yeah, not a lot of guys walk more than they strike out nowadays, so it's kind of fun to see. Also fun to see the evolution of Brett Baty, who was starting to feel like a quad A kind of player, a guy who mastered AAA but really just hasn't hit at the big league level. But all of a sudden, he's starting to. He's playing multiple positions now, too. Like, he doesn't just qualify at third, he qualifies at second in many leagues as well. And if you look at what he's done recently, he's really pushing for playing time. His last 15 games, 2 homers, 7 RBI. He has a .286 batting average, but really over the last 7 games is when he's gotten very hot, hitting .360 over that span. Now, Vientos has been a slow starter. I'm not saying it's going to end up being a platoon, but Brett Baty doesn't feel like he's going anywhere. Maybe he becomes the everyday second baseman, as Jeff McNeil, I alluded to, I think is more of a bench player at this stage in his career anyway. But I think Baty's a guy that you should be looking at acquiring in deeper leagues, but if he's still in the waiver wire, and in 60% of leagues he is, maybe for depth at the very least and that versatility, he's a guy worth picking up.
And especially because the numbers you're looking at are in like a highly more competitive league. So that 60% might be closer to 85%, depending where you're playing. But 14% barrel rate, 45% hard hit rate. Beautiful. Perfect. Getting the ball in the air, that launch angle sweet spot, something Mookie Betts does really well. It's a pretty high number, and expected batting average around 260. If you got 260 out of a guy that's barreling and hitting the ball that hard at that level, you're going to get pretty big results, to be honest with you. He's also underperforming against off-speed pitches, hitting only 227, but an expected batting average of 270. So if he continues to make contact, get the ball in the air, he's able to pull it right now, you're going to see some pretty good results. And I like what you said. He did feel like a quad A player. Looks like he's transitioning into maybe a fantasy relevant one right now.
Another guy who was a prospect maybe forgotten about in a lot of spheres, Connor Norby, another guy who plays a little second, plays a little third base in most leagues, 42% rostered currently. And Norby started the year hurt, but now is coming on strong. The last 7 games, he's got a homer, he's got 7 RBI, he's got 3 runs scored, hitting .375 with a .542 slugging and a .423 OBP. Now, Norby was kind of wasting away in that Baltimore organization. He was traded last year, and now he's an everyday player. So he's getting the at-bats, he's getting hits. to me, this is another dude that you're looking to pick up because if you've had some injuries to your infield, like all those folks that lost Bregman, there's Baty sitting on the waiver wire, and there's a guy like Norby as well.
296 he's hitting so far in May. 2 homers, the 2 stolen bases. I will say, like, the profile looks great. This is someone you and I kind of debated into the offseason because, again, like, I'm always going to start with, like, barrel and hard hit. They're pretty good. They're not great, but they're pretty good numbers. High strikeouts maybe have you a little bit worried, but he's almost added a 10% to his contact percentage, which is up into the 80s now, which is really solid for him. But the thing to watch for is he has got some heavy righty-lefty splits. He's hitting over 300 against righties, 200 against lefties. So about 100 batting average point differential between the two. So if you're in like weekly leagues, maybe you can try to project the matchups. If you got a lot more righties in there, Connor Norby's going to probably find a lot more success. I don't know if it's going to lead to any platoon stuff, but either way, kind of does a little bit of everything. He's going to hit in a prime spot in a ish lineup. But I think that's the type of guy sometimes you're either putting on the bench or is, like a middle infield type of spot for you in fantasy. I think he should be picked up because he's got some pretty quality hitting metrics. You just hope the strikeouts don't take over.
All right, last call at the bar for Jac Caglianone, everybody. First baseman, Kansas City Royals, got promoted from AA to AAA, and he just basically continues to be the same guy. So the AA numbers over 38 games, 9 homers, 43 RBI, 322 batting average, and 947 OPS. His first 7 games in AAA, 5 homers, 10 RBI. That's right, 5 homers and 10 RBI. His first 7 games hitting 290 with an OPS of 1077. Look, it's just a matter of time before Caglianone gets called up. And the problem is, when you look at the roster percentage, it's taking into account all the dynasty leagues. So it's around 57-ish% right now on the CBS site. On more redraft friendly spots, it's probably lower than that. But Welsh, it feels like you got to stash him now if he's still available, because he might, by the time June is over, be with the Royals. It's very possible.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think the only thing holding him back at this moment is his ability to play in the outfield, or at least the Royals' comfort level of him being in the outfield. That's what he's been doing in AAA. He's been working more in the outfield, doing a lot of outfield drills. His bat is live. It's completely live. And at this point, we're not coaches in the major leagues, but you'd almost be like, just get him at DH. Like, let him have those regular everyday at bats. And then why don't you work with the major league coaches and major league players every single day working on that outfield? Whatever their comfort level is, maybe they want to push it for Super 2s or whatever it could be. But Jac Caglianone is coming. And if we are at June 15th, let's say, I kind of be surprised if he's not up here. I think it is a possibility in the beginning of June, right before it. Yeah. I would say by the middle of June, he should be here, unless there's some bad, horrid outfield play, which I don't think we've really seen. But his bat looks ready. Like you said, it's last call on what looks like one of the more prolific bats, and it'll be a test when he gets to the majors. If he keeps hitting for contact, he legitimately might put himself into the race for Rookie of the Year for a guy getting called up in June, if he can meet that call.
All right, make sure you meet all of your calls for waiver help with the Waiver Assistant. If you're struggling with waiver wire decisions, don't. Let us help you win your fantasy baseball league. The Waiver Assistant's here to help. Just sync your leagues for free to receive personalized waiver suggestions tailored to your roster and league settings. You can quickly see which available players will improve your team and by how much. Download the Fantasy Baseball My Playbook app today or visit fantasypros.com/MLB My Playbook to get that edge on the waiver wire right now. Let's talk about some arms here. Let's start in the bullpen, Welsh. Daniel Palencia seems to be the guy right now in Chicago closing games. So we've had kind of a roller coaster in that bullpen. There's no doubt about that. Palencia seems to be the guy when the ride is stopped that you want. He is rostered in about 37% of leagues currently. So Welsh, how aggressive would you be on Palencia if you need saves?
I don't know if I would be mad. I mean, if you need saves, like, you got to be a little bit more aggressive. But I guess where I'm getting at is I just don't know if it's a long-term thing with him. They've had a lot of injuries, and this might be relatively short-lived. Obviously, the success that they have during it, I think his first shot, he blew the save, and then he's gotten a couple more opportunities. It's okay, but he has an almost 10% walk rate. Strikeout is fine. 1.93 ERA, but an expected 3.5. I'd say if you need some saves and you need them now, you can be like pseudo aggressive, but I don't think he holds it. So your own league, you got to determine if you're battling between a couple other guys. I'm not going to be hyper aggressive just for maybe like, let's call it 2 weeks worth of saves. If there's nobody else out there, maybe you do have to be more aggressive, but I don't think I have like a long-term sustainability as him being the closer in Chicago.
Yeah, the walk rate's high, but the hits per nine, I mean, he's only given up 9 hits and 18 innings.
2.2% barrel rate against. They're not making contact on him.
Yeah, like they're not making contact. He's his own worst enemy. And sometimes as the closer, being effectively wild is actually one of the best things you could be. That was the early days of Craig Kimbrell, right? He was kind of a little all over the place, but that's really effective in the 9th inning. Also, surprisingly effective, a guy who qualifies at RP, but he's been a starting pitcher for the Yankees, is Ryan Yarbrough. Still rostered in just 15% of leagues currently. We talked about this on Leading Off. I mean, I don't know what the difference is. We tried to figure out, some of the metrics, and you had some really good answers on those questions. But as a starting pitcher this year, the guy's been absolutely phenomenal. In the last 2 outings especially, he's gone 10 innings, 11 strikeouts, 2 walks. He got a 2.94 ERA, a sub-1 whip over that span. I don't know how long he's going to stick in that rotation, but man, he has been really solid for the Yankees when called upon. I've kind of dismissed him, but after now 3 or 4 starts, I'm not dismissing him anymore.
Yeah, and it's really like about the contact that he's given up. Batters have a 4% barrel rate against him. That's like 2% lower than he's ever had in his career. His K percentage has gone up, and he started throwing a cutter more. And one of the things you can look at here is like, as far as like his repertoire, it's like fastballs. Like fastballs are what they're hitting hard, but they're not making quality contact. Everything else, exit velocities are lower again. So, I mean, he's found a good pitch mix to just induce just a worse rate of contact while not being really elite in any specific area. So Ryan Yarbrough is, I still think, kind of in the streamy range, but I'm going to kind of ride the hot streak. Maybe they found, he's not like Michael King here. I guess that's the thing, the reliever to starter, but there's some serviceable starts that are getting in here. And I think like we picked on him against the Angels, and he picked up a solid win here. So I think he's that borderline streamer, deeper league, maybe even like a lower end hold in those like 15 team leagues.
All right, 2 more guys to talk about, both potentially streamers. We don't know how long they're going to stay in rotations too, because they're filling spots, just kind of like Yarbrough is. Logan Evans of the Seattle Mariners, coming off his best start. He's not a big strikeout guy. We've profiled him before on prospecting with the Welsh and a couple other things there. We're still waiting for reinforcements. Gilbert's working his way back. Bryce Miller slowly working his way back, but certainly Evans coming off his best start. He is rostered in less than 20% of leagues. And then Noah Cameron rostered in about 40% of leagues currently. Another guy who is filling some starts in the meantime without Lugo, and Reagan's dealing with his issues. So Cameron and Evans, 2 guys that I think people are looking at right now on the waiver wire. But the question is, Welsh, for how long could they be useful? And therefore, how much do you want to bid on them?
Yeah, you might be safer with Yarbrough longer, honestly, because
I would agree until he pitches poorly.
Yeah, Noah Cameron is specifically tied to Cole Reagans, who's getting close. And Cameron has been, it's okay. It's under 20% K percentage, but with high walks. The ERA has been phenomenal. Expected kind of is telling us a decent story versus Logan Evans, who does not strike out, 17%, lower walk rates. But a lot higher contact, so he's getting away with some stuff. But these guys are both just tied to other players. The Mariners have multiple pitchers who we don't know. Here's the deal. Evans could be the guy to bet on between the two, because we're not 100% sure what is going on rotationally with Logan Gilbert's health and Bryce Miller. So there might be a better opportunity to stay there than it is Noah Cameron, who's specifically tied to Reagans. I think they're both fine. I think these are both players that you're spot starting. Maybe they have a 2 in a week that, it's decent matchups, or you're just specifically picking on teams, like the Pirates or the A's or whatever it is. Like you're trying to pick on decent matchups for not the A's in their home stadium. But I don't think sustainability is too crazy. I would prioritize Evans over Cameron, but honestly, Yarbrough might be the guy I would rather hold a little bit longer.
Make it 2 for 2. All right, who are you picking up on the waiver wire? Drop your comments below, because we just got a couple days left to win that Jose Ramirez jersey. And why shouldn't it be you? Drop your comments, subscribe to FantasyPros MLB, help us get to 30,000 subscribers, and you might just win yourself that Jose Ramirez autographed jersey from pristineauction.com. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For the Welsh, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Happy hunting on the waiver wire.